Doghouse Podcast is back. Big, huge matchup. Georgia versus Texas. Great return guest, Gerald Goodridge from the Longhorn Republic. How you doing today, Gerald?
Man, I'm good. Busy work travel week, but always willing to make time for you, Trey.
Yeah, man. Appreciate you coming on again. Georgia versus Texas. Texas coming off the bye week. So we're going to dive deep into that. Also, were you surprised that this wasn't game day and Notre Dame going to Pittsburgh, I think? I know. Anyway, your opinion.
It's weird. I don't know what goes in the decisions for college game day or who decides what, but ultimately it's pretty interesting that they're going to that game, even especially because like Pittsburgh's coach was like, we don't need to win this game. So it's pretty wild to me that that's the situation that we're dealing with right now.
Yeah, definitely Georgia, Texas is the better matchup, but I think they maybe try to switch it up and go to places, don't go to the same places several times a year. I can kind of see that, different fan base, set eyes, but I think everybody, probably more viewers will be definitely on this game.
Yeah, they'll benefit from the primetime window, though, so that'll be nice.
For sure. Also, make sure to like, subscribe, share the Doghouse Podcast. We're growing. Got a lot of good comments last week. Well, first off, I wanted to jump in and look at Georgia, probably one of their better wins of the year against Mississippi State and the Cowbells. I know a lot of people were saying this is a trap game for Georgia, noon game kick, 11 a.m., going on the road. And Mississippi State has been scrappy this year, real competitive. But Georgia handled business, over 300 yards rushing. Nate Frazier had his best game of his career. I think it was 181 yards and a score. Gunnar Stockton looking really good, 18-29, 3 touchdowns, took care of business. And what I was impressed about is we actually got home to the quarterback, 3 sacks, and had a turnover, which we have not been able to get pressure at all. And C.J. Allen, Raylan Wilson were roaming around back there at linebacker. But all in all, impressive win, 41-21. I think we got out maybe unscathed on the injury front, but definitely a good win on the road at the Cowbells.
Yeah, Texas went there and had to go to overtime with a comeback. So Mississippi State's been such a weird bugaboo for everybody all year. Georgia really seems like the first team that's been able to put them away and keep them away. So it was a very weird. My first time watching Texas play in Starkville, and apparently it's just a nightmare every year. They're really just dragging it down to the mud and making a rock fight.
Yeah. I think Georgia fans, just even for me, we were really shocked. We thought this was going to be a 4-quarter game, probably going to be down at the half like usual and have to be resilient. But the first complete game, I mean, they look good. So I was surprised too. But, hey, we'll take it heading down the stretch. And before we look at the Texas-Georgia matchup, give a shout-out to our great sponsor, VivaTequilaSeltzer.com. 0 carbs, 0 sugar. No, it's getting a little chilly, but still good for the tailgate if you can get it. Be a good holiday gift coming up. They are a big sponsor of the Boston Brewers for hockey. My personal favorite is the watermelon, but check them out. Doghouse 20% off. Again, that's Doghouse 20% off. VivaTequilaSeltzer.com. Also, they're growing on YouTube, and check them out on Instagram as well. And Gerald, before I wanted to ask this because they say it all the time, and I want to know if it gets annoying to you Texas fans. So does everybody saying the horns down? Is that annoying to you guys and the Texas fans? Or I always want it because that's what you hear all the time, hashtag, and I probably even said it too, joking around, but just want to get your thoughts.
There is a group of Texas fans that get really upset by it, really offended by it. I am not one of them. It's part of college football. It's what makes this sport incredible. Now, I think it's weird when fans do it when they're not playing Texas. You see Oklahoma fans, they're playing Missouri doing the horns down, or you got A&M fans doing it when they're playing somebody else, especially A&M. They have their own hand sign, yet they're doing a horns down when they're playing somebody else. So it doesn't annoy me. It's just weird to me. You're not focused on the task at hand, big guy. That's always what I feel like. But no, it's like it's rivalries. You're supposed to be petty. Like it just is what it is. Like it's fun. And I think it's a weird, like the it being a penalty in the Big 12 turned out to be a really weird thing. Like, Mac Brown was upset because one of his players got flagged for holstering the Texas Tech guns, and so that's when they made the horns down thing a penalty in the Big 12. It's just such a weird, like, when you're sensitive about something, somebody's going to pick on it more. So like, it's just funny to me.
Yeah. It's good to hear that you guys are kind of open to it. It's funny. Kind of like I think we've had Georgia players get called for penalty for doing the gator chop after a sack or a fumble or turnover. So it's all part of it. It's all fun. I just had to ask because we hear about it a lot. So looking at the game, looks like the point spreads actually changed a little bit, which is interesting. I know it's here middle of the week, but I think it originally started at 6.5, 5.5. Night game, 7:30, Sanford Stadium. Looks like the weather's going to be just right. What kind of key matchups, and where's obviously Texas coming in too, fresh set of legs coming off the bye week. So what matchups are you looking at? And also maybe who are some players for Georgia fans, if I'm not familiar with Texas, that we should keep an eye on or be leery of?
Yeah, I think when you talk about the Texas offense, the big thing we're watching, and it goes back to how Georgia, when Austin whipped our tail last year's, is the offensive line versus Georgia's pass rush. It hasn't been your older brothers or your relatively close relatives Georgia front where they're going to have 3, 4, 5 NFL draft picks on that front, and they're just terrorizing folks. But it's still 4 and 5 star guys on that front that Texas has really struggled. They've poked around. They've had some injuries, and they've had because of the injuries, they had a guard playing out of position at center, and then they moved him back to guard, and things have looked better over the last couple of weeks with him playing guard. I say last few weeks, last game, right? Against Mississippi State, Texas gave up 26 pressures. They made the switch to move him back to guard and put the backup center in, and they only gave up 6 against Vanderbilt. So like there's something happening there, and hopefully it carries over again. Vanderbilt's front and Georgia's front is a pretty wide chasm as far as talent goes. But ultimately, the offense, the way the offense goes is the way the offensive line goes. If Arch can get comfortable, if he can stop having to stare at the offensive line as soon as he snaps the ball, he's able to look downfield, things work better, right? If Texas can get a little bit of a push, getting the running backs going, both running backs, CJ Baxter and Trey Wisner have both been banged up this year, so we haven't really seen them be as big of an impact as we hoped they would be. Ultimately, those guys are the ones that if they can get going, things will go really well. But really, Texas has found some success using the pass as a supplement for the run. We all saw the Ryan Wingo 75-yard touchdown to open the game against Vanderbilt, but a guy like DeAndre Moore, who doesn't get all the shine that Ryan Wingo does, he is your, like, when you need a third down, when it's 3rd and 6, and you need a guy underneath, DeAndre Moore's the guy he's going to look for. DeAndre Moore is a sure-handed kind of slot guy, going to find a little space, find a little wiggle. Those are the two guys on the outside. They have a good group of receivers. Emmett Mosley was injured early. He's coming on late. Parker Livingston, he was the kind of the early front runner for wide receiver 1 in the group, but he's kind of fallen off a little bit, shown some consistency issues in the last few games. But ultimately, like the matchup that I think I'm the most concerned about is, can the Texas front deal with whatever Georgia brings? Last year, it was a bunch of simulated pressures, shifting guys at the line of scrimmage. Those are the things that, like, if Texas is even, 50% better than they were in the regular season game than they were last year, then this could be a good matchup for Texas. But if Georgia's able to create havoc, create confusion, then it's going to be a long night for Texas.
Yeah, definitely interesting there. Also, Arch is playing a lot better. He's trending up. I know he had a lot of hype on him coming into the season. I did want to ask on that is, do you think seems like good kid, real humble kid, doesn't give any off the field issues, but just wanted to say, was it like maybe overhyped coming in, which I know with his last name, and what was your thoughts? And it's just like almost like too much coming in on him. It's kind of kind of bad for him. I felt bad for him because he's like, hey, Heisman Trophy, you got Paul Feinbaum maybe saying no more quarterback off the board. Like, what's your thoughts been on that?
It's such a weird like dichotomy of things because the Manning thing works for him and against him because if his name isn't Manning, then he's probably he probably would still be a highly touted like he's got all the physical tools that you want out of a quarterback, but obviously the eyes are more on him because of the last name, which was a blessing and a curse because he got a lot of notoriety, but ultimately the expectations I think were outsized because if you look at him early in the season, a lot of what he was dealing with are pretty typical of like first time starters where he's holding on to the ball for too long, like pressing and squeezing a little bit, missing some open reads or kind of getting the ball out late, and those things are typical of first time starters. Really this is it's his third year in the program, but it's his first year really being a full-time starter at this level, and so I think part of the issue with him was just normal growing pains. Now you can compare him to some other young quarterbacks that are playing better and early in the season. But ultimately, like for him, it's between the ears, a lot of it getting out of his own head, getting his confidence up. He made a joke about maybe the concussion loosened some things up for him because he got concussed in the last couple of weeks. He's been playing really well. So like, I think the hype was all external for him. Like he was never the one to bring it on himself. Like, did he do the NIL deals? Yeah, absolutely. But he was, the hate for him almost feels forced because he's played it kind of like how we, all the old heads like us want these young guys to play it, right? He was a highly touted quarterback, and he said, "Hey, I'm gonna hold the clipboard for 2 years, and I'm gonna learn, and I'm gonna take my bumps. I'm gonna run scout team and all those things." The only NIL deal he did before he was named the starter was a charity thing that netted a bunch of money for a children's hospital. So like, that's all the stuff that all of us old heads want these young quarterbacks to do, and he did it. And then when he was named the starter, he was like, "Okay, now we're gonna." Try to, use the NIL and he, for better or for worse, like is, capitalizing on that. You can't blame him for it because it's, part of the game now. But ultimately, I think what we're seeing now from him is probably more what we expected. I think what folks wanted to see from him. Over the last 2 games, he's pushing 700 yards, 6 touchdowns, and an interception that wasn't his fault. It bounced off his wide receiver's hands and into a defender. So like really, he hasn't really thrown an interceptable ball in a couple of games. He's starting to layer the ball really well. He's starting to go through his progressions really well. Some of that does have to do with the offensive line playing better. But I'm an old school guy. I'm a firm believer you can put a bad quarterback behind a good offensive line and win a ton of games, but you can't do it the other way around. You can't put a good quarterback behind a bad offensive line and win a ton of games. It's just not how it works. So the offensive line coming into its own, him getting more confident, getting his stride. And I also think some of it is on Steve Sarkisian as not only the head coach, but the offensive the offensive constructor, the guy who kind of creates the offense. I'm talking a lot about this, but it's been a big thing for me. Early in the season, Steve Sarkisian was running the offense in the way he thought it should look, not to what the personnel dictated. And ultimately, the sign of a good coach is like, can I adjust my system and how I run things to fit what the personnel I have is? And he's done that in the last couple of games, and things have looked better, right? Arch does better when he is in the shotgun or in the pistol and things are a little more wide open. And it's a quick 3-step, couple of reads, get the ball out, or can I bail with my feet, right? Sark had him running these long developing play action passes and having him, look down the field and wait. And our offensive line was playing like trash on top of him being a quarterback that doesn't have quite the processing yet that we want. So like that combination turned out to be deadly for him. So now that they're playing more wide open, they're playing a lot of 11 personnel where he's able to just, stand in the shotgun, look, survey the field really early, get the ball out quick and get the ball to his playmakers. Like he's been playing well, and you're seeing his confidence grow in stride.
Wow, that's awesome. Really great in-depth detail on Arch Manning. But yeah, definitely he's trending up. He's dangerous down the stretch. Going to be a good matchup. Definitely against Gunner. So looking at it, I want to throw a couple stats out there before we make our prediction, which is interesting. So reading up on it. So Texas is, I think, 118th in penalties, which is interesting. Also, another one that I learned today is, I think Georgia, their 1 and 2 is against passes either to or behind the line of scrimmage. So a lot of like flare passes, screen passes. As Georgia fans, we hate that from Mike Bobo, third and Bobo, as they call it. And we'll bubble screen you to death. But I think they come from the same scheme that they look at as an extension of the run. That's what Kirby calls it. He even called it, hey, how about last week when we got the Zachariah Branch to all the screen haters out there? So anyway, that was kind of interesting. So where I'm going with this, I think it's going to come down to who can tackle out in space and the best tackling team. And another one is Texas is second against the rush, and Georgia's going to try to run the ball. So it might be tough sledding. And the Auburn gave them a lot of problems. But then also I believe you guys are like 96 against the pass. So in your prediction, I could put you on the Budweiser hot seat here. What's your prediction, and what do you think the keys to victory for both teams or for the Longhorns?
Yeah. I'm an old school guy. I have a little bit of a baby face. The Grays are betraying me now, but I'm a, you win at the line of scrimmage, you win at the point of attack, and that's, football 101. And I think, that to me is going to be the key for both teams. How does Texas hold up against Georgia's, defensive front? Can Texas's defensive front create some problems for Georgia's offense? Georgia has struggled to run the ball a bit. Texas has been really stout against the run. And so, one of the things that Pete Kwiatkowski is really good at is when a team has to be one-dimensional, he's really good at scheming those things up. And so I think, if the Texas front can hold up as they have over the last couple of weeks, I think Texas is going to fare really well on defense. I think both these defenses are going to probably have a good day. I anticipate this probably being a lower scoring affair. If you don't like defense and you don't like some smash mouth stuff, I think, skip this one. In spite of how, wide the offenses like to play, I think these are two really good defenses, or two defenses that can be really good. I'll say, because they both have their moments. But ultimately, I think the keys can, whoever does a better job of creating space in the running game, keeping the quarterback upright, letting the offense process, and, playing complementary football. It seems like a really simple key, but when you have two teams with this level of talent, these are two of the most talented teams in the country. It really comes down to those little margins. If somebody turns the ball over, can you turn that into points, right? Can you get a stop when you need it? Those little simple breaks in the game. And Texas hasn't been great at that this year. So that's what's got me a little concerned with this matchup in a lot of ways. But ultimately, I think I was talking to some Georgia folks for another preview. There's there have been 3 games that are like playoff elimination games at Stanford Stadium this year, and the team that needed to win it won them both times. Alabama won it early, Georgia won the last one. This is like a winner you're done game for Texas. So that that to me, Texas is usually up for those kind of games. Steve Sarkisian does a really good job of getting the team up for those games. So that's something that I've got an eye on. He does a really good job of that. I did a lot of rambling to say it's going to be one of the trenches, period. I think whoever controls the line of scrimmage, whoever controls the 3 yards on either side of the ball on both directions is going to win the game.
Yeah, completely agree. I'll make my my pick. So it's been a roller coaster. All their games are being really close and resilient for Georgia. They won't give up, but they look they'll look terrible in the first half, and then somehow it lights out. And I think it's going to be a 4-quarter battle. And I think it's going to come down to the crowd, because Athens gets loud at night. They're going to be pumped for this game. It was finally a great home slate with Alabama game, Ole Miss game. Of course, this one's always been circled. I am glad you guys, rallied, made this a top 15 game. But I like Connor Stockton. He's trending up. He's getting poised. He doesn't turn the ball over a lot. I do think Georgia will struggle running the ball, but I think they're going to stay disciplined and got to at least try to run it. And I like our tight ends. We got a lot of tight ends. You probably saw Elias Williams kid. He is emerging. Of course, you got Oscar Delt, Lawson Lucky. He should be okay from the concussion protocol. So you got those guys. And then Nate Frazier's coming on. But I think it's going to be a 4-quarter game. I could even see Texas scoring. It seems like Georgia gives up a touchdown. There was I think Cole Kubelik stat that since 2020, Georgia's 28-3 after giving up the first touchdown, which is a crazy stat.
Wow.
So I heard that the other day. So, but yeah, I mean, it seems like we just go ahead and throw away the first drive. I'm like, yeah, you guys can go ahead and score. We're just getting warmed up. So anyway, I like the crowd rocking. I like that you guys do commit some penalties, being 118th, and you guys did a lot last year against us. We got some gifts, and I hope the reffing is fair because they've been not good this year.
Yeah.
But I like a late rushing touchdown. I'm gonna go Chauncey Bowens because he's good at the very end. I'm gonna go 31-24, and this is gonna be a 4-quarter game. And yeah, I just think it's gonna be a game as usual.
Yeah. I think I've got a 24-21. So I think it's going to be a late fourth quarter. Again, whatever it might be, I think it's a tight game throughout. Yeah, it's going to be fun.
Yeah, for sure. Also, Gerald, got to ask just because it's been big recently. So thoughts on all the coaching firings and anything you've heard with any of the big SEC hires? Or you think they're going to wait till kind of the end of the season, maybe right before that last game? Or what have you been hearing? Maybe for the LSU job, Florida job, Auburn job? What have you been hearing? I love talking about it.
I haven't heard a ton, which is weird. Like, you move on, you fire a coach early to try to get a jump on the cycle, and then things don't, I haven't heard much from it. The LSU job is so weird because it seems like they're committed to making one of the best jobs in the country look super unattractive to any coach worth their salt. Like the level of discord and discomfort and just outside interference from people who are, honestly trying to score political points in the state for various reasons. And, it is a weird situation. The LSU job should be one of the most attractive jobs in the country. And it seems like a lot of coaches are not going to want to have to deal with that crap, because you watch a press conference that's completely unrelated to anything college football, and the governor's talking about the college football, salary blow. Like, it is ridiculous. So like LSU coaches should be falling all over themselves to try to get the LSU job, because you can basically not leave the state and recruit an entire 85-man roster. So it's just so wild to me that has become a thing. I'll say this about the LSU thing. You can either LSU has proven that you can be a not nice person but good at your job and keep your job, because Kim Mulkey is still employed there because she's a really good coach, but by all means she's not. Doesn't have the reputation for being easy to deal with, and Brian Kelly was neither. He was neither good at his job nor he was easy to deal with, and you can't be both, right? You can either be a winner and a jerk, or you can be unemployed. Those are your two choices. Florida is another weird one because that was such a talented roster, and when they hit their highs, like we saw against Texas, it's a really good team. But I don't know what Billy Napier was or was not doing to get them up and going. But that's another job that should be really attractive. The state of Florida, especially when it comes to skill positions, like you can put a fence around South, the middle part of that state, and not have to look for skill players anywhere else. So it's going to be a weird cycle. I'm a big Stephen Godfrey fan. His reporting on coaching is really interesting. And he did it the other week where he could see the coaching carousel like leading to 40 like new coaches by the end of next year. We're like, backfill and replacements. Like, they got it up to, I think, 41. It was a podcast they did on their channel where based on, guys getting hired away and new jobs and all that. So it's going to be an interesting offseason.
Wow. That's 41. Wow. There'll be like ESPN updates all the time, every day.
That doggone yellow ticker. I hate the yellow score update ticker because I always think there's a flag on the play.
There it is. Oh yeah. So real quick. So with which one, how would you rate these most attractive or best jobs between, let's say, Penn State, LSU, Florida, and Auburn? I guess those are kind of like the big four. If you had to.
Yeah. You said Penn State, LSU, Florida, and Auburn. I want to say LSU because of all of the natural advantages, but there's no coach worth their salt that's going to want to deal with all of the political BS that's dealing with that. Like, if it's a strictly football thing, then LSU far and away, because they've got all that Louisiana talent. They can get all of the Gulf Coast, Texas talent. Like, it is. There's a reason why Brian Kelly is the first coach of the last 25 years to not win a national championship because it is such a good place to recruit. And it is the state school. Like there's not like in Texas, you have to deal with the Texas and Texas State, A&M of it all. In Florida, you've got to deal with the Florida State, Miami of it all. So LSU, I think, all of the political BS aside, I think it's probably the best of the two. I'd probably go Florida second for similar reasons. It's tough to deal with. It's tough to deal with the having the in-state recruiting battles with Miami and Florida, but Florida is a school that ultimately should and has all the resources to be good. And Billy Napier had all those resources and just couldn't figure out how to put it together. But, they had the NIL budget, they had all of the coaching staff, and he just couldn't figure it out. Penn State, it is a great job, but you're in such a weird position because you are ultimately the third most prominent school in your conference. You're going to be miles behind Ohio State and probably pretty far behind Michigan as well. It's a great job, but Penn State in modernity hasn't really been much, and Auburn just continues to be a tire fire. They churn through coaches, and it's everything that I'm saying about LSU times 5 is just terrible.
Yeah, I can agree with that order. Speaking of that, I guess you might have already heard it. Guess who was spotted at Georgia's practice yesterday?
Uh-oh.
Billy Napier.
Really?
So from Georgia fans, we were like, what? But we were like, all right, any kind of extra knowledge? And we were like, well, Billy Napier did help Florida beat Texas. Any kind of insight? Yeah. Him and Kirby are supposedly friends. So I thought that was an odd. I know he's out of a job, but supposedly popped up there yesterday, spotted at Georgia practice.
In the middle of all of the should Sark step down as a play caller, I really wanted Billy Napier to come in because Billy Napier is actually a really good quarterback coach and offensive coordinator when he can do that. It's all the head coaching stuff that he sucks at, apparently. It's I was like, if he gets fired and Sark decides that he's going to step down as a play caller, I'd love it. There are also some guys on his recruiting staff that I really like.
There you go.
So bring him on, Austin.
Nice. There you go. I like that. Hey, Gerald, really appreciate you coming on again. How do we follow you on social media and the internet?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter and Blue Sky at GH Goodrich for my personal stuff, at Longhorn Pod, both those places for the University of Texas stuff. We cover everything football right now, but we're kind of all over all the other sports as well. So that's where you can find me if you want some more of what we got.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely check out Gerald on Longhorn Republic. I was listening to their latest podcast earlier, and then also they're on Apple Podcasts and everywhere you can get your podcast.
Yes, sir.
It was great to connect again. We connected through the college huddle. So yeah, appreciate you coming on.
Glad to do it, man. Anytime you need us, we'll be here.
Yeah, appreciate it. Make sure to like, subscribe, share the Doghouse podcast, and I hope it is a good game this weekend.
You and me both.
All right. Thank you.